tie on one of my single strand waist beads. So when you first get it out the package, this is what it's going to look like. You're gonna see a long strand. One side's gonna have pretty much nothing there. You're gonna think no string. And then the other side, you're going to see a little loop and then a little bit of extra string after that. Don't hold the loop, hold the beads and hold that extra string and just pull. Now you'll have a side that has all string and then all your beads. What you're gonna wanna do now is basically slide the beads down. Don't worry, they're not gonna like slide all the way off. Just be careful that you're not sliding the beads all the way to like the last corner. Right here is about a good amount. So once you slide the beads down, start sliding the rest. So I'm just gonna work my way down from that one end that we started at that had nothing there. So the purpose of this is so that you have two sides with string now. So it's not just one little bitty part that you're supposed to tie, because you were never supposed to tie that little part. I have two sides that have a bunch of string on there, and then all my beads are in the middle. Something that's very important that you want to keep mind of the entire time are that all your beads are touching. And what I mean by that is that there's no like gap in between your beads like this. Because if you are to tie on waist beads and there's a gap like this on your body, those exposed strings cause wear and tear. So the fact that the beads are all covering the string also helps the waist bead last longer. With the side that there's the one side that has that little knot on there, and then there's the other side that doesn't, I'm going to like hold the side that doesn't. It doesn't really matter what you do, but I would do this if you are trying to like preserve your beads, and I'll talk about that later. So I'm gonna measure around where I want my waist beads to be. Now, when you measure this, guys, one thing you wanna make sure of is that you're not having so much space. You don't want enough space like this. That's too much space, because it's gonna start to roll down. Wherever you measure your bead is where it's gonna be. So I always see people holding it so far away, thinking that, oh, it's about to be up here. Newsflash, you're holding it this far away. By the time you tie it and it's relaxed, look how far it's gonna go down. Look how far, because you were tying it up here thinking it was gonna be up here. It's not. Like, the way you hold it is the way it's gonna be. So one thing you wanna do, don't be sucking your stomach in like I'm doing right now, because I'm doing a video, so I'm trying to make my stomach look nice. Relax. Relax your stomach, because your stomach's gonna be relaxed on the daily. Number two, what you wanna do is leave that little bit of that 1 finger, 2 finger. You don't want too much more than that. Like, I shouldn't be able to like, 1 or 2 fingers of space. The second thing you want to do is start from that one end. There's just string here. Start from the one end, and that's your measuring tool. So I'm going to put this under my belly button. Stomach relaxed. See, I was holding it in. Belly button, stomach relaxed. I want it actually a little bit lower than that. How do I measure that? By sliding slightly down with the beads. I'm basically just like holding it to see where I want it to be. And when I think I have a good location, what I do is put it in between, like I make a little gap here, and then I hold it. You can maybe try to like wrap it there real quick, but I hold it. And then I relax. I let the beads sit here and see, do I like that? I want it to be just a little bit lower. So I'm gonna come back to where I was, unravel that, and I'm gonna slide over one more bead to see if that makes a difference. Actually, I'm gonna slide over 2 beads. And you would think it's crazy to go 1 bead by a time, but it's so crazy how 1 or 2 beads changes the whole thing. So I'm holding that there again. Look at that. I should have just did 1 bead. That's exactly what I was talking about. Where you should just go bead by bead, because it's so weird how that 1 bead like dramatically changes the whole look. So I'm gonna go back, and I'm not gonna put this black bead in, even though I think it's so cute. So I'm just gonna go up to this bead now, to the next bead over, and see how I like that. I'm gonna take away another bead. Stomach relaxed. Next thing you wanna check is that all the beads, I'm sliding my fingers across with a little bit of pressure to make sure that no beads are sliding. If I feel sliding of beads, that means there is a gap, which you don't want. And this was the area I said at first that I wanted. And that's exactly is what I wanted. All right, so now that I have that, it's already wrapped around because I was testing it all, but I'm gonna undo it again, but you really shouldn't have to at this point. But first things first, I'm going to try to slide any beads to make sure that there's no gap. I'm gonna feel around. I'm feeling. What am I feeling for? Sliding. If I feel sliding, that means there is a gap. Okay, now I see everything's cool. Still a bunch of beads that are like in my face right here. So remember how I said don't push it all the way down? I am gonna push it slightly more down again. The reason why I'm not sliding all of these beads off, because I can, that's also an option. The reason why I'm even trying to like preserve some of these beads is because since this waist bead is a little bit longer than me, I can actually keep the rest and try to make an anklet later. If I slide all the beads off automatically, there is no anklet later. That's the only reason why I'm being so careful. So I still have a little bit of string on both sides. That first little tie is there. I'm going to show you guys again. This was from when we had measured and saw where we liked it. We're sliding both sides, making sure there's no gap. And then you make that first crisscross, basically, the way you would just normally tie just about anything. Make sure everything is real close. That's what adds to that seamless look. You see how there's like not even a gap now in between. And then you're going to do it again. So I could pass the smaller side through, I could pass the bigger side through, but that's a little bit more annoying. Like I could have passed this through the hole. I think it's just a little bit more tedious to do it that way, but you can do it with the shorter string, whatever you want. You want to maybe lay it gently against your skin. Hold your fingers there. I'm just holding it into place. I'm holding that knot into place. It is okay to go a little bit slow. And you do want to be careful in this stage that you don't leave a gap in your beads. So I'm just going as slowly as possible. Oops. Going as slow as possible. And you see, okay, here's a moment, critical moment. If I were to tie the beads like this, you see how much string is over here? That's gonna leave that gap I was talking about. So you wanna make sure the whole way through the beads are tight. And you wanna make sure too that you're not just pulling the string super fast, because if you do that, sometimes you might capture a bead in between. So the whole process, you wanna take your little 5, 10, 15 minutes. Why? Because this bead's gonna be on you for the next whatever years. And you can't be mad at anyone but yourself at that point. It's been about 10 minutes since I've started. So bam, now you have your first knot. You're not done, guys, you're not done. So you wanna tie at least, I would say a minimum of 3 knots, minimum. Maybe around 3 to 5 knots, depending on the situation you have going on. But just know, once you pass 5 knots, you have the chance of accidentally making the knot look like a really, really big bulge. So, you know, you want to kind of stay at a minimum too. So around 3 to 5, 3 to 6, somewhere around that number. But I have my first knot done. So once you do that first knot, here's what's critical. This is the second knot that you do and like the last knot that you do. Highly critical. So you make that first knot, right? Now you're gonna wanna do reverse. What do I mean by reverse? Normally you just keep on making knots like this. You know, you keep making knots how you're doing it. That second knot, instead of continuing on, you actually wanna go behind. So now I'm making almost like the knot inside versus doing everything just like outwardly. This backwards knot, this is the forwards one. The backwards one where you're actually going in the waist bead. See how I'm like tucking it under the waist bead? Yeah, that's the secret one. That's what's gonna keep it not only super secure, but it'll also make sure that, let's say one of your 3 to 5 knots unravel, you still have more knots to go through. So now that I do that, I'm gonna tie it again, bam. And then I'm actually doing a little bit loose, but you wanna really tighten that on, you know, use your full strength when it comes to these knots because you don't want the knots to come out whatsoever, no slipping. Okay, then I'm gonna make another knot going back again through the waist bead, and this will be back now in the direction where we had first originally started. And you wanna make sure too that your knots aren't overlapping, otherwise it's gonna make like a really big, like, ball or big bulge. And you can move and direct it. So like, let's say this, you see how it's like over here? I can move it to where I want. You know, there's actually a big knot right there. So I'm going to move it to this side. And then you keep on doing that maybe 2 or 3 times. You cut off that extra string and boom, you have yourself your very own waist bead. Now, bonus round. So you have your very own waist bead just like that, exactly where I want. It'll move however I want it to move, not pinch. I can put my hand underneath because we left those little bit of gap. So there's enough movement, everything. Now, bonus round, you have now once again a waist bead with 2 threads. Now this I could sit here and tie on to my wrist as a permanent. Well, it depends on how much length you have. I have enough length here to make an anklet, so I probably would tie this around my ankle and make an anklet as well, and you would tie it in the same way. So yeah, that's very much how you would tie on your own waist bead. That's how it looks like. Nice and simple. We're now at the 14-minute mark, so it takes about a few minutes to do, but for the years it lasts you, seconds basically. But if you have any other questions, will be uploading another video showing you how I tie on my double strand one. So I'll be tying that one on soon. And that one is a little bit different than this one. The same rules, but there's a couple more things to be aware of. So I'll see you guys soon.